Please rise for invocation.
Oh God, as elected officials that are charged with responsibility to govern in the best interest of the people, we do pause at the beginning of this meeting to ask your presence, your guidance in all the decisions we make. May your wisdom and ours working together bring about the things that help the citizens of Port Orange community to live in peace, harmony, and security. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk call the roll.
Here.
Councilman Tramont?
Here.
Councilman Bastian?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Here.
Mayor Burnett?
Here. Public comments on the consent agenda items. Come on, Robert.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. I wanted to speak about this item 12, the extension of Yorktown, the northern section of Yorktown. I still find, as I've said previously, the idea of Yorktown ever becoming 4 lanes is just totally unacceptable. And I still think we need to consider the option of affordable housing. If you go along Yorktown and look at that vegetation area between Yorktown and I-95, right now, it's flooded. And if you make Yorktown 4 lanes, where's that water going to go? Except to pollute Spruce Creek, which has already got enough problems. So I'm asking you to table this, because if you pass this now, I think the other two things are going to just fly right on through. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
What's your motion?
Those to approve consent agenda.
May I have a second?
Second.
No other comments? All approved? I'm sorry, call the roll.
Councilman Ford?
Yes.
Councilman Tramont?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes. 5-0. Citizen participation. I know Councilwoman Dennis, you came to speak to us tonight. Come on up. You've got some good news. You look all workshopped out. Yours run longer than ours?
It was just 8 hours.
Is that all?
Yeah. But it's worth it to get out of Deland to come here and see you. Yeah, I'm Deb Denny's, your Volusia County Vice Chair and District 3 Representative. Good evening. There is some good news here. You have a flyer that we sent to you. Services, Human Services and the Veteran Services, which are now exist on Canal Street, East Canal Street in New Smyrna Beach. We're going to be moving them down just a couple blocks west to the Florida Department of Health building. That's good for a lot of reasons, because we now have an ADA accessible Votran stop there. We have more parking, and the Veteran Services and the Human Services are in the front of the building. So no more will our citizens be sitting out on the benches on Canal Street waiting to get in or waiting for the overflow. It's just the demand for services is increasing, as you would expect with our population. So we're expanding our services out there. But another thing, that's going to be August 20th. Another thing that we did was expand fixed route service on 44 for Votran. But the good thing with that is it's connecting, and we expanded the Nova Road connection. We doubled we didn't double, we decreased the wait time there. I think it was only going once an hour. We're doing 30 minutes now on that Nova connector for our citizens, so that'll take it all the way up to Ormond. So we're looking at those service routes too, to help assist all of that. So I'm just here to share with you that we're expanding that service delivery. We're relocating it there, and for all of our citizens. There's quite a few Port Orange residents come here. It was this weekend at the VFW out here on Williamson with your commanders and several other veterans organizations. They are really pleased with this, and they were going to be doing a ribbon cutting August 20th at 9 o'clock at the facility if you'd like to join us, and all of our service agencies will be there too with their flags. So it's a pretty big deal. It seems like a small thing, but for our residents, it's better access and better serviceability. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. Thank you for giving me the time.
You betcha.
Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure.
Good news.
See you later.
Take care.
The good news is I'm the government. We're here to help.
There you go.
So just to reiterate, the Florida Department of Health, Human Services, Veterans Services is relocating to 717 West Canal Street. And Monday on August 20th at 9 a.m. they're having a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate. And Adam Clatterbuck.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, Mr. City Manager, and City staff. I am a husband to a wife who is disabled, a father to 2 special needs children, and have a brother who also calls 628 Cole Drive home. Volusia County is not providing adequate amount of ambulances for the county of this size and population. It is a direct reflection on county administration. The men and women of Volusia County EMS do the best job they can, but are being set up for failure on a daily basis. In Volusia County, if you call 911, you're going to get a fire truck, whether you need it or not. The old adage of call the fire department because they'll know what to do still holds true today. In fire-based transport system, an ambulance is set to a non-emergency call, assisting the disabled, medical alarms, and well-being checks. This does several things. One example I'm going to give you is the ambulance goes and helps the person off the floor. If the person requires transport, you have the right piece of equipment at the scene right away. There is no wait time. More than 80% of the state currently uses this model. Volusia County is the only holdout on the entire east coast of Florida. So, with that being said, instead, our system is set up where a fire truck is sent to first see if the person actually requires transport to the hospital, even if the person calling 911 asks for an ambulance. Once the fire truck is on scene, the fire department then calls for a transport ambulance to come and transport the person, which delays the ambulance getting to the location. Delays have been greater than an hour in some cases.
That's true.
The fire department is doing the lion's share of the work already. Volusia County EMS units are coming in and transporting the person from point A to point B, and they're getting the reimbursements. Our fire department is not getting anything. Your firefighters are here, and they're cross-trained. Why not look at taking those tax dollars back that we pay the county and use it for the fire department to offset the cost of adding advanced life support ambulances within the city? Why is Volusia County so against anyone else getting into the transport business? The idea of fracturing a system that is already broken is simply a scare tactic used by the old guard of evac days past. The system needs a complete overhaul. The notion that an ambulance is going to be coming from Ormond or Deltona to Port Orange in a time of emergency is completely unacceptable. The latest idea is adding 4 basic life support units. That's like...
How much longer you got to finish up?
I've got about less than a page.
I'd really like to hear them through. I think it's important enough that we all hear this. Are we okay with that?
Are you motioning to add time?
Yes, I'm definitely motioning to add time and allow the gentleman to finish.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go right ahead.
Carry on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the latest of adding 4 basic life support transport units is like adding a Band-Aid to a bleeding artery. Place the Volusia County transport units in the county stations and allow the cities to transport units, place advanced life support units in their fire stations. Edgewater is being proactive and is a shining star in their community. They're using this model. 1 paramedic starts and 1 paramedic ends treatment, which is critical for a patient, especially in a chaotic situation. It is my sincere hope that you, the leaders of Port Orange, add this layer of protection for the citizens of this great city. These failures that occur on a daily basis, and I invite you to look those up, on a daily basis, can no longer be ignored or labeled as an isolated incident. It is due to an antiquated system. Bring us into the 21st century, please, I beg you. If you are unhappy with if you are currently happy with the level of service that is being provided to you, then do nothing is your answer. My family and I support the Port Orange Fire Department and Chief Fuston in the efforts to make Port Orange a safer and more attractive place to live, and we support the tax increase. We hope you will also. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Adam. Well done.
Council comments. Why don't we start on this side? Oh, did you have more to give me? Eric West.
Come on, Mr. West.
My name is Eric West. I live at 3943 South Peninsula Drive, Port Orange, Florida. And it's been an interesting night. I'm glad that VOTRAN is expanding its service because that's an important part of developing a town's actual desirability for companies that actually pay real wages instead of strip malls and stuff. So that's a good sign. And it's good for the people. And I'm much in agreement with this guy about the ambulance service. I had an experience where a guy fell down and knocked all his teeth out, was unconscious, and I was there trying to help him, and it took forever to get an ambulance to him. So, right down here at Crane Lakes. Here's what I'd like to suggest. I'm probably never going to stop some of the projects you have in mind, but what I would like you to do is to think about the future of this town in terms of what the real realities are that are facing us with regard to our environmental problems, our water problems, all of the problems that we have. And I would suggest that you call a disinterested party, somebody who is not local, who has no bone in the game here. And like, for instance, the Springs Institute or the University of Gainesville, or as New Smyrna did, the Nature Conservancy. The Nature Conservancy is advising them on what needs to be done to maintain the health of their city. And inform yourself, because science is the answer. Opinions really don't matter if they're wrong. You really need to know what is coming at you and what you can do to facilitate making sure that Port Orange is still a city 30 years from now, that you're not having to go to desalination, that you're not having to, you have roads that are falling apart because millennials are not buying automobiles the way their parents did, and the ones they're buying are relatively inexpensive to run. Your gas taxes are running out. Your options are running out. And I can tell you, driving around this town, as soon as you get off the main drags, there are an awful lot of streets that really are in need of attention that are not getting attention. And that's the same all over the county. That's not just Port Orange. So hire somebody to give you a workshop to really inform you of what your options are and what's going to happen if you don't pay attention to things like that. All right? Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Eric.
I'm looking at you. No more surprises? All right. Thank you. With that, now we can proceed to council comments and the indomitable Chase Tramont.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Wow.
What?
The indefatigable Bob Ford.
I'm gonna continue Chase's tradition. Nothing tonight.
Wow. I'm running out of adjectives, so we'll just go with Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Well, I guess I'm not gonna pass on the opportunity there. I'm gonna break the trend, so. I just wanna comment on an incident that we had last week that relates to, I guess, some comments by the last two speakers there. You know, we're having this discussion ongoing about ambulance service in Volusia County. And, I'm glad to see that there's starting to be some broader discussion, at the county level, as well as I think some of the local, newspapers have picked up some stories and written some articles to bring some of these issues to better light. Unfortunately, the type of incidents that we fear the most, we had one of those occur Thursday last week. And here's, for those that are trying to grasp this thing holistically, I think it's important to understand a couple of things. When our fire rescue personnel go to these scenes on a medical call, and there's no ambulance there, or there's no ambulance coming, they can't leave. They just can't turn around and leave a patient that they're already taking care of to go to another service.
Correct.
So Thursday, we have a fire station that goes to a call. It's medical related, and as I understand it, they are at this call waiting for an ambulance when another medical call in Port Orange comes out. Because they can't leave there, another fire station in Port Orange has to be dispatched out of their district into another district location for another medical call. There is no ambulance available to send that's in reasonable proximity to that call as well, as I understand it. So we have to rely on South Daytona to send a municipal ambulance from their city. And unless something's changed, I believe theirs is located all the way up on the north end, kind of near Daytona Beach. What ends up happening basically, just in general terms, is unfortunately a person goes into full cardiac arrest, and South Daytona's ambulance does the best they can to get this person to emergency facility. Unfortunately, the person doesn't survive. And whether or not an evac ambulance, if they had been right there close by, could have made a difference and a better impact, or if we had our own, I don't think any of us can truly know that. But my concern is that this person had a fighting chance to survive that cardiac arrest because South Daytona had an ambulance that was willing to be sent into Port Orange to aid a resident of Port Orange. And so I do think we owe a thanks to South Daytona for doing that, but I also think it's very important to keep this discussion in the forefront of how these issues are occurring and what this means. And so there was a situation where you had two fire stations in Port Orange completely tied up on med calls with no evac ambulance readily available in the city limits or close proximity to get involved in that scenario. That's not happening once a year or every blue moon. That seems to be a scenario that's starting to repeat itself very frequently, to the point that it should be a concern on every elected official, whether you're a city or a county official, to help find a solution to this. And we need to find those solutions. These are always going to be one of those situations where, unless I'm the person in need of that ambulance right now, it's out of sight, out of mind. I get that. The reality of it is it's not out of sight, out of mind. It's happening all too frequently, and we need to be looking at that. I have gone ahead and recontacted all of the county elected officials again, and sent them emails to again make note of my concern individually. I would encourage everyone on this council to do the same, and residents that share those concerns to contact those county officials. The gentleman who spoke earlier, you mentioned possibly 4 BLS units being added. I have not seen confirmation of that, and I'm not sure what that would do ultimately to alleviate some of the concerns, if he would even put a dent in it. And by the way, apparently last night during a debate that I think was hosted by the News Journal, forgive me if I'm incorrect on that, but one of the county elected officials seemed to suggest that there was sufficient staffing. In fact, that it was possibly they were even overstaffed And I just don't see how anybody can see it that way with the amount of issues that we're seeing and the fact that you've already got Edgewater, New Smyrna, South Daytona, Ponce Inlet that have had to purchase and staff ambulances because they know that the likelihood of those evac ambulances being there consistently and reliably is just not occurring. And so it's an issue we're going to have to continue to discuss. I don't think there's any way that any of the municipalities or the county elected officials can just wish this one away. There's a growing issue, a growing problem that's going to have to be dealt with. So we need to keep that in the forefront of discussions.
Mr. Mayor, just to respond, being in policing, I learned a lot about response time. And I learned a thing which is the same with the fire or police. You never can have enough. And at some point, you just have to make a decision what's reasonable response time. You're gonna miss some of them because to do otherwise will bankrupt you. And, you know, you'll be spending every dollar you have in the city on trying to provide enough. So we have national standards. For ambulances, they've been set by the people that do that at approximately 9 minutes. What I've done, because I think this is an issue that's very costly for the city of Port Orange, we need to make it based on facts. So I've challenged the county and they've agreed to provide us with the data on response times to Port Orange calls. They're in the process of providing it. And what we're going to look at is how their response times to calls within Port Orange measure up. They say there will be times they can't make it because of the luck of the draw. Because at some point, and by the way, just having 2 stations out on medical calls is not a bad thing, because we have 3 other stations. And we also have mutual aid, so the communities around us can help us when we're having a lot, and we can help them when they're having a lot. It's a much more complex picture. So what we have are 2 competing issues, and I would like to make the decision to institute a very expensive ambulance program based on the data. The data is just how well is the county doing. I'd also like to ask, what does the county have to put in there to improve the response before we undertake a very expensive operation? I'd like it based on good data, not on events that may or may not be what you would call unusual, or are they regular? We need to know that. So before, you know, I have sought that data. I've talked to the county. They said 4 units will make a difference. The problem I have is the county has that basic responsibility. If we go to providing ambulance service, the county will save money. Our taxpayers will continue to pay for the county ambulance service and our own, which I consider double billing, which is a concern. It's a concern especially this year because now the school board is now asking us to pay for safety officers, the schools. Again, the city of Port Orange will be paying for safety officers if we go that route, and the school board. Again, Port Orange will be double billed. As you go through this budget hearing with us, you will see that right now we're proposing an absolutely, at least for me, unacceptable increase of almost 15% tax increase right now without, to cover it. So we just can't afford it unless, and maybe because I come from a poorer district with a lot of seniors who are on fixed incomes, they're suffering. Social Security is not increasing very much. Their IRAs are not what they should be. Their CDs are earning a measly 2 to 3%. How are they going to stay in their homes? So we're making that horrible solemn-ass decision. How do we keep the taxes low enough so people, average working people and seniors, can afford their homes? And how can we provide the best services we can? And it's a very difficult juggling act. But I think if we're going to increase in the city taxes dramatically, to bring these new services to the city, we best do it based on good data, and right now we don't have it, but we will have it shortly.
We are going to, just to let everybody know, we have a workshop coming up at the end of the month, and I've got a strong feeling that ambulance service will probably dominate that workshop, as should be the final workshop as we're
What day
talking
is
about our
that one?
general funds. We'll
Oh,
set
that- oh, yeah,
we'll be
we have to
setting them
do it
later
right tonight. Yeah, that's right.
Because we gotta
Yeah.
set all our dates.
Yeah.
We've also gotta move some
Yeah.
announcement dates around, but certainly, one thing that I'm very happy about, if there's nothing else, there are people out there talking about it at the county level. 6 months ago, we were talking about it, and nobody else was, so I'm, you know, let's
Yeah.
acknowledge that they're making some progress. Let's see what happens, and we'll, more than happy to examine that data going into that workshop. So much for having nothing tonight. Got one
Drew?
more.
I'm gonna keep going on what Scott brought up. The calls that he were talking about, the first call, if I'm not mistaken, was a BLS call, non-life threatening call. The second one obviously was a cardiac event that turned deadly, did not have a survivor. Mr. Clatterback brought up some very good points. Four units is literally putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And they're not gonna do any good if they're parked in a parking lot, not staffed. You can put 20 of them in a parking lot. If you're not staffing them and they can't get the people, they're not gonna help us a bit. I don't know about you all, I'm tired of waiting for the county. This has been an issue for years, and I'm tired of waiting for the county to do the right thing. And, you know, I'm supportive of this. Now Bob mentioned that perhaps a 15% tax increase, but if you break it down into real dollars, I'm sure Tracy could tell us about what that would be. 15% sounds like a lot, but I think dollar-wise, we're gonna find out it's a couple bucks here and there. Still an increase, but as Adam said, and I think most people would support that, because the need is there to enhance our public safety department and make it safer. Last month, I lost an uncle, lived in Edgewater, had a massive coronary event. Edgewater gave him a fighting chance. They got there within minutes, took him to the hospital. He was in ICU 8-9 days, and the damage to his heart was just too bad. He did not survive, but he had a chance because Edgewater was there quick. If he had to wait for an evac ambulance, you know, outcome would have been the same, but at least he had a fighting chance. So, you know, we really need to consider this and get it done, because, you know, Bob talked about numbers and things, and you're not gonna get good data. We've been asking for good data for years and haven't got anything adequate to show for it. Response times are, you know, what they wanna show you in instances, and the unit that arrived, you know, you see their time on there. But you're not seeing the original dispatch time. You're seeing the second or third unit that was diverted to get to the call, and then it shows an adequate response time, when in fact it's not. And like I said, I'm just tired of waiting on them to provide the resource. It's something we need to do. Adam's right. Volusia County is the only county on the East Coast that's not doing fire-based transport. They're all doing it. You know, and we saw the projected numbers from our finance director and everything else. What we didn't see is revenue, because that's gonna be hard to predict who pays and the collection rate. But there would be an offset of that cost, because you are gonna have revenue coming in. Insurance pays on some of these. People still have insurance. A lot of people don't. You know, I get it. But that's the system we're on. That's the way it works. If you don't have an ability to pay, we're still taking care of you. It doesn't matter if you have an ability to pay. Whether you have insurance or not, you're gonna get the same service as anybody else. So, it's something that I just am not willing to wait any longer on for somebody else to do it. We have to look out for Port Orange, or Port Orange residents, Port Orange visitors, and everybody else that's here. We have to do it. did Scott hit, because I was gonna ask you to clarify, did Scott do a pretty good job of the incident last Thursday? Did he cover all the bases? Or do you,
That I got.
do you have anything else?
Basically, yeah,
Was
that's
it
it.
covered adequately? Okay, because, I mean, if there's anything else or any further information, I saw you touched on it in the weekly update,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if anything else had transpired or if you had anything additional to add. I'd like to hear it because that's a extremely unfortunate event. It was a young man. So, these things are happening in every city, literally almost every day, so let's fix it.
And just a quick add on, and we'll pass on to something else, but Bob brings up a very valid and a very good point that the success of a lot of the municipalities, at least on the East Volusia County side over the years, has been largely due to mutual aid, being able to help each other out. Unfortunately, we're not able to reciprocate on that. You've got on the east bordering our city, you've got Ponce Inlet, New Smyrna, and South Daytona. They're all willing to jump in and help us out, but we don't have the ability to do the same for them under that type of reciprocal aid. And so I think that's a very valid point, and I think Bob's right. Success-wise, mutual aid has been a huge part of public safety in all facets for East Volusia County over the years. So,
Mayor, can I?
When just keeping in mind though that mutual aid is not just about what we have and don't have to offer.
Mhm.
We've got
sharing resources.
the different resources here.
Yep.
We've each of us carries different resources, so we might have a ladder truck that somebody else doesn't have. We
Right.
might have, so it's more than just the ambulance. It's
Sure.
just a small piece of that. And when my neighbor's house is on fire, I don't ask if it's across the city border before I go answer the call. I go help my neighbor, and that's what mutual aid does.
Yep. Mayor, may I jump in?
We're doing pretty good for a topic we're not even on, it's on a later agenda, aren't we?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think people should know where the council people stand. I'm happy to oblige myself as well. I've made no secret about where my position has been. I too have a special needs sister, and my son has special needs, so I understand the concern. I really do. My continued challenge with this is, on one hand, we pressure the county with our words, and we say, hey, we need you to fix this. But then, on the other hand, with our actions, we bail them out by adding our own. So they see that we're taking the load, so they're of course not gonna act. They love it when cities add ambulance from themselves because we end up absorbing all the costs for doing their job. That's one issue I have with it. I have had conversations with our elected officials, and in phone tag with Mr. Rechtenwald right now to find out what's going on with that situation the other day. That's horrible. For every one bad encounter I hear 20 of them that say they were professional, they were here within minutes, and we got the job done. I'm not hearing the outcry from the vast majority of residents that, hey, we want this service, we're willing to pay for it. I'm hearing the opposite. We don't want this. We don't want to pay for it. So while I respect that it's heard, and we have members of council that are adamantly fighting for it, and I appreciate that. I'm also going to be the voice for the others, and myself as well. I feel very safe. I think the job's well done. I am interested in the data. The numbers won't lie. However, we say they
Yeah,
might,
they will.
listen, if they're fudging the numbers, that's a different problem that we have to concern ourselves with. And one I'd be very interested in understanding more of, and attacking head on. So, I have an issue with double taxing our residents. I'm gonna maintain my position here. I also, if we can have the ability to divert all those tax dollars here to Port Orange and not pay for that service through the county, hey, I've also maintained my position as well. I'd be willing to go in full force and take it over here. That makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. I've also proposed an option of giving a fire, or giving an ambulance truck to a particular firehouse. What's wrong with hiring
or adding an ambulance truck to a firehouse and sending that out. Right now, we are, for about 90% of our calls, over-prepared, or excuse me, not prepared at all. 90% of our calls are medical. We don't have one evac. All right, maybe 8 to 10% of our calls are fire. We have 5 fire trucks that are on call ready to go. We're over-prepared for that problem, and we are not prepared at all for the other. So I would support putting an evac out there and allowing one of those stations to transition into, at least look at the options of where we can be to prepare for that.
Well, if nothing else, we got a good jump on that workshop coming up in a couple of weeks. I obviously am a swing vote, and I'm going to try to maintain an open mind because there's an awful lot to consider. And as Scott puts, an awful lot at stake. So, to be continued. My only comment tonight is today teachers went back to work,
They sure
which
did.
means Monday the
Yes.
kids go back to school. So there's going to be a lot of changes in traffic patterns around the 10 schools in Port Orange starting next week. Certainly that first week and a half, traffic is extra bad as people start to sort that out. So plan accordingly, and let's everybody be safe, okay? Special awards, reports of recognition, proclamations, item 15, report from Kemper Sports of the Cypress Head Golf.
And here come
That's good.
Bob. Hold on just a second. Drew, make sure Adam, you had a communication with him
Mhm.
before. Make sure that when we set our workshop date that he knows it.
will do.
Good evening, members of the City Council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager. Report is from June 2018. I'm Bob Duquette, General Manager for Cypress Head Golf Course. Our overall golf revenues in June finished a little lower than our projected budget, mostly as a matter of the rain process, the continued wet weather pattern that we experienced in both May and June. Did contribute to a loss of rounds along with 10 days of cart path only restrictions. And of
Yeah,
course,
about that. Thanks a lot.
yeah, of course, during the Mayor's Cup, it did rain a lot that night before, so we did have cart path restrictions on that day, but everybody survived. Our payroll for the month was lower than projected budget. We saved about $10,000, and again, most of this is controlling our labor cost, especially when the rounds are reduced. Month of June is our 9th month in a fiscal year, and our year-to-date revenues are under the budgeted amounts, mostly due to the lost cold snap in January and the wet weather in May and June. And the range revenue is equal to our budget, and our payroll and operating expenses, I'm happy to say, are both lower than our budgeted amounts. So far, our savings in payroll and operating expense, we're ahead of the budget by about $92,000 for the year. In terms of food and beverage, as you all know, Flag Sticks has taken over. Kevin Hanna's been running that process. He's been working well with us as well as with Reggie Hunter, who's sales and marketing, to promote their process. They've been doing karaoke nights, steak, I believe it's prime rib on Thursdays, but he's making a great effort. He's sent out quite a few mailers in the local community to try to get people that are in our area to come and visit Flag Sticks as well. And that also is good for the golf course because it brings them into the golf course if they've not been there before. So it's been a good working relationship. In terms of tee sheet, we've had 3,038 rounds, essentially 2,264 18-hole rounds and 686 9-hole rounds. In terms of our course and grounds, the weather has been challenging. Again, we experienced quite a bit of rainfall in the area, and it definitely has affected our maintenance team in terms of being able to cut some of the areas you probably have heard. We've got some high grass out to the sides. Currently, our maintenance team has been working diligently to get it all under control. So hopefully by the end of this week, if we don't get any more rain, we'll be in great shape. We also had sessions for junior summer camp, and our teaching approach for camp is based on establishing fundamentals, keeping the students interested and excited about the game of golf, and we covered all aspects of the game, which also includes a day on the golf course, so they get to practice their skills. Very well attended through the month of for June. Of course, we were pleased to host the Mayor's Golf Tournament. full field of golfers, and that's a great program because it helps to benefit their Parks and Recreation Scholarship Fund. So that's a great thing. Unfortunately, it was on cart paths, but again, everyone survived.
What did we bring in for that?
Total, I'm not sure. Sue Lavala would probably have a
I think
better
it's
number.
roughly 5,000.
A little over that, I believe. Yeah.
And a nice 6-hour round, but I'm not saying it.
Oh,
6 hours. It was a hot day.
It was a hot day. We do mind shares and comments. We send out 400 questionnaires. Our overall rating for the golf course received an 8.5, and our recommended rating is 9.0, and our service rating is at 9.3. Upcoming here for the summer, for July, we're hosting the Volusia Flagler Junior Golf Association. So this is a great opportunity for all the kids in both Volusia and Flagler to come to Cypress Head and see what we have. That brings in a lot of parents as well as family and friends from that area. And we're doing also summer camps in July, and we also offer a Juniors Play Free program as we go through the course all the way till August 31st. If you are with a paid adult, juniors are playing for free. So we try to promote that as much as possible to our youth golfers. That's all I have.
How's,
Okay.
how's the course, I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, go ahead.
I'm just wondering how the course is right now. This has been incredible rain.
It has been challenging. The amount of rain, we have not been able to get out into some of the areas. It is, the grass has grown because of the heat as well as the water. Some of the areas are kind of really swampy. We're working diligently to try to keep working ourselves towards the outer roughs. Right now, the fairways, it's the first time they've been able to be cut in a week. So from that point, that's making a big change. They cut up most of the roughs today. We just keep working through. The grass on the outsides are very heavy, but we're working through it.
Well, we just have to add a stroke per hole for each par for all that lack of roll. And make all
There's
the
not a
golf.
lot of roll, no.
I
No,
typically
there's not.
do that despite the condition of the field, the course.
There are lots. I imagine that once they get through all that grass, there will be a gold mine.
I will not tell you about the ball I lost in the middle of the fairway 10 days ago, but
I've done it myself. It's been wet.
Maybe it wasn't actually in the fairway.
I am sure it went in.
I will tell you the weather is challenging. We're hoping we've had several days now that have been decent. So it's allowing us an opportunity to do what we need to do to maintain a course.
Questions, comments? Thank you, Bob.
No, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
ERP project update.
Not for me.
We haven't heard from Jane in a while.
And here she comes.
So as you know, I come in every couple of months. We're in the early stages. I just want to keep you up to date, though. Oh, that timeline isn't up there. Okay, I always get panicky at that part. This is the timeline I've kind of been showing. So I'm Jane Davis, ERP project manager for the finance and HR and payroll system that we're looking to purchase for the city. That timeline is the same as what you've been seeing. There haven't been any major changes on there, which I'm quite pleased with. We've been able to stick to what we said from the beginning, what we would do at the certain points in time, and it's okay if we do have to change things, but it's best that we don't. So we have spent the last 3 weeks watching software demonstrations in here. We had 3 different software platforms and 5 different vendors, and the selection committee, there's 9 city employees who sat up where you're sitting for 3 weeks, 8 hours a day, and watched the demos. So fair play to them, and they did a great job of really analyzing it and digging into what might be a good fit. And so we have narrowed that down to 3 vendors now, and they're going to come back for what is called discovery. We were going to bring back 2, we've decided to bring back 3, and they come for 1 day each at that point, and we really start drilling into them as to what might be important to us, what do we see that we want to find out more about, and what might matter, and things like that. So that's going to happen in September, and then after that, a few days later, we'll have another meeting where we select one who will go through the contract negotiations and hopefully award them in December, depending on how it goes. And then in the meantime, I think as I talked to you before about, we have 14 process improvement teams who are looking at those business processes ahead of the ERP implementation, try and streamline some stuff before we get to that point. So there's been about 18 recommendations. It might not sound like a lot, but they've taken a lot of work. You don't just go, hey, this is a great idea, let's do it. I mean, there's been a lot of thought gone into these things and meetings every week with all the staff and input from cross departments, which is a really good thing. So I'll read out one example of one of the recommendations so you get an idea of what we're talking about, is to, in relation to personnel requisitions, and it's how departments post open positions, and the recommendation on that process will decrease the number of touch points by 50% and reduce the time it takes to approve positions for posting by more than 50%. And so with that being said, it kind of speeds things up for us hiring and doing those kinds of things we need to do. So we're looking at those overall, you know, taking down how many people have to look at this thing. Why do those people have to look at it? Not that we're taking away checks and balances, but you know, where we can streamline it and make it more efficient, we're doing that. And then with every decision that's made, it's going through a steering committee and all the right channels, and make sure all the department heads are aware of these changes. And then we are, you know, training and communicating where need be back down the chain so that everyone is aware of what's happening. So that's kind of where we are with that part. And eventually some of these things will start coming to you, because some of them might require ordinance changes and those type of things. So of course, just keep in mind that as we get through some of these items, there's going to be more big ticket stuff that's going to start coming to you, and we'll bring it here and give you all the appropriate backup information that you need to make decisions on it. But I'm very pleased with the way things are going. I think the staff are doing a great job of really digging in and take this very seriously, and a lot of work is happening behind the scenes on top of their normal day-to-day activities to get this stuff done. Do you have any questions on any of that stuff?
Comments, questions? We are so woefully behind in technology that I am so looking forward. And I know that it's been a long, slow process moving forward, but it is so important that we get this right. And I appreciate your efforts and everybody's efforts on the pit crews to get this right, because it's not going to be easy. When we have changes of this, and this is going to be massive, slowly implemented, but massive, and some of it is even culture changing. So
a lot of
it's important we get it right now.
Yep.
Chase?
Yeah, one quick question. Are there any predictable, and you don't have to give this now, but maybe some talking points later on to talk to residents, some predictable challenges that residents might experience with this? Any hiccups that we can prepare them for, or will it just be all in-house? People won't have any idea of the change? Is there anything that you can think of?
Well, they might at some point, and this will be more towards the tail end of things. I mean, I'm hoping that the changes they will see is an expedition in certain processing of things that might billing and things like that. I can't guarantee it. We're trying to make those, the more efficient things are in-house, the more speedy those kind of external transactions might be. But ultimately, you know, at the end of a couple of years, there might be a citizen portal where people could log on and do some self-service kind of items, like I mean, I think there's a few things now people can do online with the website and that, but as we roll out new features and things, and it could be aggregated onto one page, and one place to log in, especially when it gets down to the planning and permitting piece as well, possibly, which is kind of beyond the scope of what I'm doing at this point in time. But I'm thinking that more self-service features for them to do things online, and
it'll also give us and the citizens, to our benefit and our detriment, access to more data in different formats. So right now I asked Tracy to grab me all the checks that we wrote to Volusia County schools in the past 2 years. About 2 hours later, she says I haven't got to it, but it's on my list, and by the end of the day I get it. If we get the right ERP, I can put that up on my dashboard and do it myself with the click of 3 or 4 buttons and a little bit of training. There are cautions, but most of the companies that do this also have citizen portal access. And the bigger cities that already have this, you can query some of this information yourself. So you don't have to do a public information request. Or a public information request. You can just log on to the portal and say, you know, how much money does Jake make, and it'll tell you, so Casimir doesn't have to ask us every year. So I think it will be advantageous. The disadvantage is if they don't know what information they have, they may come to some false conclusions or not fully evaluated conclusions. So the good news is they'll show up at the podium and we'll look at the data and
They'll let us know, we'll find out, and we'll be able to adapt and correct.
Absolutely. So I think it's advantageous, but I think it'll be during implementation. They may see a glitch here and there where something goes wrong, but we'll be hopefully quick to work with the public to correct that as we get the new software. But
Yeah,
I don't expect
true.
anything.
And if we get to a point where we see something that might be an impact, then obviously we'll work with Christine and the public information officer and everyone else and try to get ahead. Sometimes you can't get ahead, things happen, but the
And I
much as
expect that. I'm
we
more
can.
talking from the basis of they're gonna happen. I wanna be able to educate people before it happens where they expect it, and so they're not up in arms when it does happen. That's
Yeah,
all.
no, that's good, and that'll be part of the communications plan and change management plan, and we'll
Yeah.
work that all out as we get closer to those pieces that start coming out, so, yeah. Good.
Thank you,
All right,
Jane.
thank you.
Which brings us to second reading of ordinance number 2018-14 is the annexation of 1660 Anita Street. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, annexing approximately plus or minus 0.57 acres of property located at 1660 Anita Street, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2018-14.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Second reading. Questions, comments, council?
Second reading.
And we also like to speak to this? Being none, call the roll.
Councilman Ford?
Yes.
Councilman Tramont?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Which brings us to item 18, second reading of ordinance number 2018-15, small-scale future land use map amendment for 1660 Anita Street. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida relating to comprehensive planning, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use designation for plus or minus 0.57 acres from Volusia County urban low density to City of Port Orange rural transition, 0 to 2 units per acre, providing for conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2018-15.
Second.
That was a second? Okay. Just making sure.
Just doing an umpire second.
Baseball season's in full swing in your house, huh? Comments, questions, no comments or questions? Would anybody else like to speak to this? Being none, call the roll.
Councilman Ford?
Yes.
Councilman Tramont?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Which brings us to the second reading of ordinance number 2018-16, rezoning 1660 Anita Street. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning plus or minus 0.57 acres located at 1660 Anita Street from Volusia County Rural Agriculture, A-2, to single-family residential, R-20, authorizing a revision of the official zoning atlas and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2018-16.
Second. I thought it
Baseball
fitting for
season
the-
continues.
I thought it fitting for the baseball player.
All right. With that, questions, comments? Council?
Second reading.
I think Chase is just trying to break my momentum, that's what it is. Anybody else like to speak to this?
Thank you.
There being none? That's okay. Stand up.
I was just saying thank you.
No,
We're
stand up.
excited. That's
Too
okay.
late now.
Hold on just a second.
Welcome to Port
No,
Orange.
no, we gotta call the roll.
Councilman Ford?
Yes.
Councilman Tramont?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Now we can say welcome to Port Orange.
Welcome to Port Orange.
Have a good night. That brings us to item 20. Item 20 is a second reading of ordinance 2018-18, adoption of 18-1 comp plan amendment for Williamson Boulevard - Willow Run Boulevard site. Ordinance number 2018-18 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use designation for plus or minus 34.5 acres from urban high density residential, 8 and 16 units per acre, urban high medium density residential, 4 to 8 units per acre, and suburban residential, 2 to 4 units per acre, to mixed use center for property generally located near the southeast corner of Williamson Boulevard and Willow Run Boulevard, with text amendment adding future land use element policy 5.1.5 to provide density and intensity limits on the subject property, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance 2018-18.
Come on up.
Oh, second.
Okay, there's a second. You really are, now you're trying to throw my rhythm off in another way.
Let's give somebody else an option.
Questions, comments, council? Would anyone else like to speak to this? Come on up. How to guess, Eric?
I have to admit that I am glad I'm not an elected official. The only thing I have to say about this, I know there's no way to stop it. This steamroller is going. But what I would say is that the things that get companies that really pay good wages are transportation, education, and amenities, and safety. And adding another road, I don't think is going to solve this problem. But what you could do, and you're already planning to do some of this anyhow, in fact, you're already under the gun to do some of this, is that you could keep the original setbacks that you have for the last iteration of where you're going to put this road. You can get rid of that retention pond and put in bioretention instead of something that's really expensive and lined and all this sort of stuff, and fountains and stuff that you have to maintain. You can get rid of all that turf that you have to mow that's going to cause more problems, and put in a bicycle lane. And take that all the way there and all the way up to, what is it, Madeline? All right, you have a bicycle lane on Madeline. So you could actually have everybody in all these neighborhoods, because you have stub roads that go nowhere from these neighborhoods. You could stub them out so people would have access to the bicycle lane. That improves property values. It's quiet, it's good for people, and it's one of those amenities that makes you a community that looks like a much better place than you really are.
I'm not sure how to take that.
I mean, you guys are working really hard. You know, you've got a beautiful this complex with the trees and everything. I mean, it's beautiful. But as I say, you know, we have a future that is uncertain, and I think adding more roads that are going to have to be paved forever. This is an obligation. It says right in here that you get to take care of this obligation. The guy who owns the property doesn't take care of this obligation. And he'd be crazy not to give you the property to build him a road. I mean, think about it. You're putting traffic by his property. You're basically giving him an increase in his property value that is way beyond what he would have if he didn't have that road. But if he had a bicycle lane, people from those neighborhoods could use his property. If he put in, you know, stuff that people wanted to go to. And those are the kinds of things that really help. So think about it. And you know, you've got to be part of this connector anyhow. You're already working on it. Your planning board is you've already got grants, or you're working on them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mayor, real quick, I'd like to let council know that although this item doesn't have the road was just discussed, that it will have a bike lane that will eventually roll into our bike lane, our trail that we're working with TPO
And
grants.
we did talk a few weeks ago about
we sure
that.
did. Just wanted to re-mention that.
Okay. Anything else, council? Call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to second reading of ordinance number 2018-8, administrative rezoning, Williamson Boulevard, Willow Run Boulevard site. And that is ordinance number 2018-8, an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning property consisting of approximately plus or minus 34.5 acres from planned unit development to mixed-use center, and plus or minus 5 acres from planned unit development to community commercial, located at the south side of Willow Run Boulevard, east of Williamson Boulevard, authorizing revision of the official zoning atlas and providing an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance 2018-8.
Second. Sure.
You are just really mixing it up over there, Chase. Second reading, council comments, questions?
No.
It's a little more of a sensitive one. I didn't want to do the umpire thing.
I hear you. I understand. Anybody else like to speak to this? Come on up.
Hello everybody, I'm Kathy Josenhans, 1527 Casey Lane, Port Orange, Florida. I appreciate your time. Thank you for what you do. I'm really sad about this still. It's breaking my heart. I know it's gonna happen, and I'm okay with that. You do what you gotta do. However, there's things that are not being considered with this. There's bus stops. No one's considering the bus stops with this. I think I've spoken to the city manager about it, but there's not just the regular bus stops for Horizon and the buses coming through, but you've got Silver Sands. You got the middle school and you've got the high school that stops not on Chardonnay Lane, but on Chardonnay Drive in Willow Run. So I don't know what you're going to do right there, but kids get off there. They get off at, in the morning they get on and they get off. So I've spoken with the neighbors. They're, some of them, think I'm only on the city side, and now some of them are, they're all bent out of shape. I'm just like taking care of me now. And I'm just going to tell you, it's going to break my heart. If I know we got to do it, I understand, but you're going to build me a wall. I want that darn wall. I want some trees, not just a gate. Our neighborhood is already flooding. I don't know why, but it is. Every time it rains, we flood, and it stinks. It's swampy. And I don't know why that's happening all of a sudden, other than to tell you that I've noticed it more since Cornerstone went in. I've been there for 26 years. It wasn't even like that with the hurricanes. So there's something going on with that. I sat at the Shell station on Taylor today for 15 minutes monitoring traffic. I've done it a couple times. I know we talked about this and it's funny, but so the traffic right there, that congestion, Yorktown is not going to help this. These people, the congestion isn't even 95, because I even suggested, well, maybe we just get rid of 95 north right there and that'll stop that. But it's not that. This congestion right there is actually from Clyde Morris, right to Williamson Boulevard. Those people are going down Airport Road. They're not making a right on Williamson. They're going straight and they're going on Airport Road. And that Yorktown is going to do nothing for us. And as far as the school and Hidden Lake Drive, God help us, because those people are flying. They're going 45 miles an hour down Hidden Lake, and I don't think we're going to really have to sit down and talk, because Yorktown isn't helping us right now. This whole thing isn't going to help us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Anyone else?
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for letting me talk. I'm Elizabeth Miller. I live at 1538 Rusty Circle. I have lived there since the beginning of Phase 4. in Hidden Lake. And it's a very concern to me about this, the flooding that's happening. And I think it's just gonna get worse. If you do the road and you concrete it in, I think we're gonna have more problems. I know we're gonna have more problems. I'm getting more flooding than I've had before. I'm watching my neighbors bail their stuff out, the water out of their garages and get it out of their backyard. I luckily have a pool. I can drain my water and get more water in there if I have to. I don't want to, because then the water gets nasty in the pool. The congestion on Willow Run has gotten so bad. I know there's nothing we can do about it, and I guess there's nothing we can do about Yorktown coming in. And I agreed with Kathy Josenhans. We need a wall. We need a big wall. And I don't believe any of the easement and stuff that they're talking about is going to work. I don't believe it. I just have some concern. I like our neighborhood. I know some of it we can't stop, and we can't stop growth. But I don't want to be another Orlando. I love my neighborhood. I've lived there. We have great neighborhoods. We have great neighbors that have lived there for 30 years. We know each other. We're very close. We help each other during hurricanes. We go over, help each other with their yards and stuff. I'm just afraid people are starting to move out, and I'm worried about it. I want to keep my neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Back to us.
We really need to look at the flooding concerns. We do have a canal there that we may be able to restructure a little, and any building of the road should be tied to, which it will naturally be, take into account heavily movement of water.
Yeah, I agree, and seeing is that we're not committed to any kind of design yet.
We're not committed to any design.
Yeah, we've got a ways to go. One thing that I said, and I'll stand behind, is we will be required to do mitigation for that, but our standard in Port Orange is not to do the minimum.
Right.
Our standard is to actually improve the situation. So when we do that mitigation, we're examining ponds that we need to add so that they're not only sufficient size for the project, but sufficient size for the neighborhood. I've got other comments, but I'll let you guys roll through. Chase?
Yeah, these are tough situations because they, when you talk about developing on Clyde Morris or developing on Dunlawton, you know, in the heart of where the commercial happens, that's going to happen. When you're talking about impacting neighborhoods, that's when it hurts. You know, we want to try to protect the integrity of neighborhoods as much as possible. You know, with that said, you know, and I appreciate, you know, the many of the neighbors that understand, you know, what we have to do as a city. I would ask and expect, and of course I know Jake and I know staff will continue to communicate with the residents, the affected residents out there, as I'm sure our developers will as well. And they've already done a good job doing that, having town meetings out there. I'd just like that to continue to go, because I do not want the residents out there to be left in the dark as to what takes place out there. You know, what we can do to accommodate as best as possible, I'd like to see that we do.
One thing I think is, when we're taking a look at this design, at this point, with nothing done, nothing decided, and not even know when it's going to be built, what we had on the books for the last 20 years to go through, I think would have been a disaster compared to this. So
Yep.
let's keep that in mind as well. Scott?
No, that was gonna be my comment right there.
Drew?
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same thing basically. I mean, it's been planned for, 25 years, and now that, I mean, reality is hitting and it's coming through, and so now we're stuck with the task of minimizing the impact to the entire neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So it's good to hear that there's gonna be a bike lane, and I know it's very preliminary now, but, you know, we need to look at all the options of, you know, at the end there, what are we gonna do where it goes to Willow Run? I know we discussed at the community meeting some options for Chardonnay, like a roundabout or a cul-de-sac or something, or just some way of having those 2 lanes of traffic not so close together anymore.
One way in, one
for,
way out.
for the, yeah, like a right turn in, right turn out type of thing and all that. So, you know, we're gonna need to do and require everything that can be done to minimize that impact on all these folks.
And for that matter, I
Jack had
appreciate,
something, too.
what's that?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, were you whistling at me?
No,
No, I was gonna start
think he-
speaking,
I
but-
think he has something too. He's.
No, go
ahead.
no. No, I was just saying, I want, council to recall and the public to know that this is a city-driven project, if you will,
Yeah.
to downsize the density there. I got it, there's 15 cows out there now. But the private landowner who's got rights
Yep.
could have had a pretty dense place going there. The road aside, we've worked with the landowner to get it less dense to provide the best possible outcome for the neighbors there.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, the best comprehensive look at how the city's gonna look and kind of spread out some of that business along Williamson, so it's
Yeah.
not all down by the corner.
Yep.
And you well know who the landowner is, and that landowner has been instrumental in working with the city in the past to make
For
sure
decades.
that compromises are made to get everybody in the best possible place moving forward. So the flooding that we're being made aware of, Lynn Stevens and her crew will take a look at that. It obviously has nothing to do with the road and the development because it's not done yet. We're moving forward now that we're kind of a little more free to move on the Yorktown pool, otherwise known as the sidewalk. So Lynn's gonna have that designed now and try to get that fixed when the kids aren't around. But we'll try to tackle all those issues down there, and we'll work with the developer, the
You might have some
landowner.
opportunities to improve those things you did before.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna,
Yeah.
we have a nice wall on the southern segment of Yorktown that got added. That albeit the bamboo sags when it rains, does look beautiful when it's trimmed and well maintained.
And they just trimmed it all up.
Yeah, they did. And I have to do a mea culpa myself. I am one of those cars that uses Hidden Lakes as a cut through. Now I don't go through there at 45 miles an hour.
Chief?
Verify that for me, please.
He's
But
got a
I will
red
say
car.
that I
Got a
use that
guy
as a
on that.
cut through,
Got a guy for
and
that.
given an alternate route, I think me and a whole lot of other cars,
Yeah.
we could actually take it out of, off of Hidden Lakes and onto a better feeder road, and I think it could help the neighborhood. Certainly, I would like that. I would use this extension in lieu of Hidden Lakes because, quite frankly, I'd like to travel a road that cuts through there a little bit quicker, a little bit cleaner, without having to worry about cutting through a neighborhood. And I know I'm not the only one. So when I leave Lowe's, I'm looking for the back way out. So to anybody on Hidden Lakes that see me come through,
Sorry.
I have gone the speed limit, but I still apologize. So yes, I am absolutely looking as we move forward to see the dumpings, the natural dumpings in the cow pasture cease and see something that, we know something's gonna be built. We know something's gonna be developed. We've dealt with a lot of developers in town and landowners in town who have been, you give and I take. And we've got a beautiful park on the west side of town because they have been committed to
Absolutely.
working with us. I have no problem with them having a profit motive. That's what they're in business to do. And if business don't make a profit, their employees aren't employed. Then we get poor projects. No problem with them making money. But I do appreciate the fact that they want to do things right and well to a certain quality and give back to the community at the same time. So for things done in the past, I am thankful and grateful. With that, any other comments or questions, council? Call the roll?
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let them get out of there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we can't let, whoa. No, no, no,
Boy
no, no.
Scouts.
I'm glad that you got up so that you guys can come around this way. Come on up.
If you're
It's
wearing a
public
uniform.
speaking.
You're wearing a uniform. You don't leave here without getting recognized.
Public speaking.
We are very happy to see you here tonight looking in on us. So why don't you step up to the microphone, tell me who you are and where you go to school.
My name is Garrett Van Evans. I go to Creekside, and I'm going into the 7th grade.
All right.
All right.
My name's Ryan Walton. I'm a senior at Spruce Creek High School.
Very nice.
My name is Jacob Walton, and I am a freshman at Spruce Creek High School.
Very nice.
You guys learn anything tonight?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What'd you learn?
Thanks.
Not to be an elected official.
You learned that sitting up here might not be easy sometimes? I appreciate you guys being here. If there's anything that you have any questions of us,
Call Jake.
absolutely call Bob Ford.
Mayor, I just,
Yeah, great.
who are the gentlemen? Do we have a leader out there? Do we have a dad?
Come on up.
Come on up.
We got him.
You rounded them in here in the summer session.
Way more fun in the back of the room. My name is Scott Walton. I'm Scoutmaster of Troop 456, which is who these gentlemen are with, as well as at least one other person in the room. And we are all Port Orange residents, so our goal here tonight, beyond getting the recognition and the advancement that these guys are earning, is let them understand a little bit more about what goes on in the community. That's our primary goal with scouting these days. And we really appreciate your actually giving them a very good lesson, because we got to watch a lot of neat stuff happen. They understand it better. One's voting soon. So
Outstanding.
the more they know, the better we'll all be as citizens.
Like in days voting?
No.
One from tomorrow.
Nice.
November is his first official
Nice.
available, but
Very nice.
Congratulations. If you
Parents-
need any
his
help with the
parents
ballot, call
told
Bob.
them not.
Call Bob.
Good deal. Congrats.
Thanks for coming tonight, guys.
Thanks,
My
gentlemen.
pleasure. Thank you very much.
See you.
We'll give them a moment as
Make sure you didn't leave anything behind. We
Forgot
sell
his
that
water
later.
bottle. They weren't.
that brings us to second reading of ordinance 2018-20, which is the adoption of the 18-2 comprehensive plan amendments. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the future land use element, amending public school facilities element, amending the coastal zone management element, amending the conservation element, amending the capital improvements element, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2018-20.
Second. Thank you, Bob.
See, I kept my rhythm. Council, comments or questions? There being none, would anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to second reading of ordinance number 2018-22, the administrative utility billing adjustments. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending section 2-240 of the Code of Ordinances related to administrative utility billing adjustments for the inadvertent transposition of numbers.
See how
Providing
easy it
for
is?
repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2018-22.
Second.
Motion and second reading, comments, questions, council?
No.
Would anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Man. I'm gonna blow this one up a little bit. And that's the beauty of, if I make it larger on my screen, I don't have to show off that I have to wear glasses, right? Second reading of ordinance number 2018-13 is the Telecommunications in Right-of-Way Code of Ordinance Amendment. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Port Orange by amending Chapter 58, Article 2, entitled Construction and Rights of Way, Sections 58-31, 58-32, 58-34, 58-35, and 58-37 of the City Code, creating new Chapter 58, Article 4, Sections 58-7, 58-85, entitled Communications, Facilities, and Public Right-of-Way, Sections 58-70 through 58-85 is provided herein. That is one run-on sentence. Creating the Port Orange Communications Right-of-Way Ordinance, providing intent and purpose, applicability and authority to implement, providing definitions, providing for registration for placing or maintaining communications facilities in the public right-of-way, providing requirement of a permit, providing application requirements and review procedures, providing for a performance bond, providing for construction methods, providing development and objective design standards, providing for fees and taxes, providing enforcement remedies, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Whew.
Nice.
Move to approve ordinance 2018-13.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Council, comments or questions?
Now,
Would anybody else like to speak to this? Call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
No.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-1.
Good job.
Couldn't let that pass 5-0. Brings us to regular agenda, resolution number 18-21, transmitting communication facilities and right-of-way ordinance to county council. The resolution of the city council of the city of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, transmitting the city's communication facilities and public rights-of-way ordinance to the county council of the county of Volusia for consideration and providing for an effective date.
move to approve resolution number 18-21.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Jake, who's speaking to this?
I don't think we need anybody to, do we? All we're doing is sending this to the council for consideration, the county council, to adopt our ordinance.
Which we just did prior to this. So I think you just said what needed to be said.
There you go.
Questions, comments, council?
No.
Anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Brings us to request for continuance of resolution number 18-17, the partial drainage easement vacation, lot 86 Foxborough, phase 2, 618 Ipswich Lane.
Move to approve resolution number 18-17.
Yeah, I'm looking for it to read.
We're,
Oh, yeah.
this is,
It's a continuance.
Motion to continue.
Yep.
Move
Gotcha.
to continue.
Yeah.
No wonder I don't
Second.
have it here to read. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Any comments or questions? Anyone else like to speak to this? Mostly procedural in nature. Call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Item 27 is a resolution 18-22, approval of the fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 24 capital improvement plan.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thanks, Al. We have a motion second to approve the capital improvement plan, which is a spending plan for capital projects fiscal years 19 through 24, which we reviewed a portion of earlier in workshop. Questions, comments, council? Anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tramont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. 5-0. Which brings us to resolution number 18. You know what? This would be a good place to take a break. So 10-minute break right now, because that's going to take more than a few minutes.
Perfect.
No, no.
You sure?
Oh, no. There.
Resolution number 1823, expressing the city's support and intention to create a PACE program, and item 29, the approval of membership agreements for PACE program. Margaret, you said we're not quite ready for prime time?
Yeah, we would like to allow the presenters to be here. They couldn't be here tonight, so we'd like to continue until September. Say that.
Well, the second meeting in September, which hasn't been determined
Right.
until later today.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give the date till mid-September.
May we have a motion to that effect?
So you need a motion for 28 and 29 to
Yes.
be
Yes.
tabled or postponed or?
Continued.
Continued.
Continued to the second meeting in September,
So
which will
moved.
be determined.
And that's your motion, right?
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Item 30, intent to award ITB 18-18 to Yellowstone Landscaping for city facility landscape maintenance services. Who do we have presenting on that?
Lynn Stevens.
Who else could it be?
Who else could it be?
Good evening, Lynn Stevens, Public Works and Utilities. As you know, we modified the bids for the facility mowing. After a couple of workshops that we had, we discussed options for mowing. We revised the specifications, we made them clearer. We made sure that the required work and quality of work was very clear in the bid documents. We did go back out for bid. We received 4 bids. We went through the bids. Upon checking the documentation that was provided by the 2 lowest bidders, we found that the lowest bidder, which was Scotty Boy at $304,917.83 per year, when we did the review of the mandatory required reference checks for the similar scope of work, we could not find anything that was of similar scope and size as the project that we're trying to award. The largest contract, and we had a couple of conversations with the owner of Scotty Boy Landscaping. The biggest contract in his references was a little over $34,000 a year, significantly lower than the $304,000 contract. So it was our recommendation to go with the second low bidder, which was Yellowstone, because we could not find similar scope and size of work for reference.
Council.
Questions? I'm sorry, Marty?
One other thing, and that is whichever way you decide to go tonight, that motion should be subject to the receipt of a performance bond for the services that will be performed, and subject to review of all the final documents because they've not been finalized.
You want to amend your motion to that effect? Scott?
I don't have, I made a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't have.
Never mind.
Did we
How
move
do you know?
Did we
How
move
do you
this-
know we
did-
don't?
Did we move this up and do the pace after this, or
No?
Case was continued.
continued? Okay.
Make a motion.
You make a motion to that effect?
Make a motion to that effect.
Do I have a second so we can discuss this thing?
Second.
We have a motion second. Council, questions, comments? Scott, why don't we start with you since you seem to have the most concerns here.
Well, so when the couple things, Len, when
Sure.
when the bid was announced, was it made? In other words, how would companies know they wouldn't be considered unless they had a project of a similar size already? Was that made a condition of the bid?
It was
So-
listed to provide references of similar scope.
But I'm saying it's not a condition, it's not a disqualifier, right?
It was not necessarily, I'm not sure if it was a disqualifier. It said that they had to provide 3 references of similar scope.
Okay.
And that was part of the requirements of the
scope
bid.
of scope or size, or what do we?
It said scope.
Okay.
So it does say of similar
Okay.
scopes.
Okay, gotcha, all right. I guess one of my concerns was it looks like all four bidders met all the qualifications, have all been deemed responsive, but we're not recommending the lowest bidder, which is also a Port Orange-based business. So I have concern about that, sure. Okay.
I know we're coming back, so. Drew?
Yeah, and that was my concern too. I mean, the bids are obviously close at $14,000 and change difference or whatever the exact number is. But here we have a local Port Orange company, and they were a responsive bidder. Obviously, all four were. Some of the bids were really high, and you know, the motion is to or intent to award it to another, the second low bid, and that you know, I have a little bit of concern with that one, and you know, as far as scope goes, how's anybody ever gonna get to a project of that if somebody doesn't take a chance on it?
I don't disagree with you, Councilman. We did check all the references.
Yeah.
2 out of the 3 references responded. 2 of the 3 references gave them very high marks. But again, the highest contract that they provided us was a little over $34,000.
Okay.
It gave us a bit of pause. The second reference that they had was on an as-need basis, and the work varied. So there was no dollar amount. And the third reference had changed hands and could not provide a reference to us.
In regards to their capabilities.
Exactly. And knowing that mowing is such a big issue for us, knowing that we want the best quality product we can get out there, we wanted to make sure that we had a company that we could verify references, that could provide us service of a similar size, was a concern. Now,
Bob?
we did have conversation with legal about the performance bond. So both companies have said that they can provide us the performance bond.
Bob?
No comment.
Chase? I'm good. Anybody else like to speak to this?
Scott Mims, 1303 Dexter Drive. I'd just like to say that I do the work myself. I live here in the community. I did the bid myself. I walked the properties, and I think that I'm well qualified for this. My scope of work is my business. I don't have a single contract for this, but the entire thing I do is this type scope work, and it is well within kind of the dollar signs if that's where we're going. But I do the hands-on work with local workers that I give jobs to. I have the equipment and I have everything required for this bid. And I do it personally, so therefore I have a personal cell phone that I can be contacted with about any questions about the work. And I don't have any problem with, calling me and somebody skipped something, I'll take care of it immediately, not 10 days later when it's already being cut again. And as far as all the requirements, like I say, I have all of them. So I just feel like the $13,000 difference that we have here saves me and my family that are taxpayers here money every year. And I just don't see that an outside company can do it as well as I can personally. So that's just the thing I have, and if you have any questions.
I do. Obviously, your company's a little bit smaller than their company
Right,
because
right.
they're nationwide. That's not the concern. My concern is, are you bringing on people, I mean, are you gonna be if the bid's awarded, are you gonna hire the people to provide the number of people that we need to do the work?
Right, I already have people in place that are gonna come work for me extra besides the ones I have now.
Okay, so
I already have that already arranged.
You don't have any concerns about being able to provide the manpower and the equipment needed to do this
No, sir.
type of work?
No, sir.
Okay, fair enough.
How long have you been doing this kind of work?
Off and on for 30 years. This is my own individual business, and I've had it for almost 5 years. But I've worked for the same type stuff off and on for 30 years.
So good.
Was there anything at all about any of these locations that give you any reservation or hesitation that you would be concerned with being able to do it based
No,
on the
sir.
scope?
Because I do the same work for everybody that I take care of now. My customers, which are commercial and residential, I do everything basically to where, would do on just a bigger size. That's it.
Okay.
Questions? Bob, Chase? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else? Howdy, stranger. John Chaney, how are you?
John.
Hi, my name is John Chaney. How are you guys?
Okay.
5773 Fallen Tree Lane. When I saw the recommendation for the bid, and I know I'm probably going to lose a friendship over this, but I live in the city of Port Orange. I used to do it all. So I know what it's supposed to look like, and I know what's supposed to be done. If you look in the contracts, you're supposed to edge the beds every time you mow. It's not being done. You're supposed to edge the roadways every time. It's not being done. It doesn't really matter what you write in the scope of work if you don't hold the person accountable, and the only way you can do that is money. Because if you tell them it's got to be fixed, they fix this and they let this go. If you drive around the city and you look at Williamson, Dunlawton, Town West Boulevard, those are the three areas I drive the most. They'll cut the center islands, they won't cut the sides. Next time they mow, they'll edge West Dunlawton and not edge this from 95 to Nova. The next time they mow, they go up to the next section. I also know where it's supposed to be done and what's not supposed to be done. Like one of the places that are driving me crazy is right behind BJ's. The grass is this tall. It's never been done. I used to mow it. It was in the contract. It was highlighted in the lines. It's just crazy how much they don't do, yet if I had a $300,000 bid, I'll save $100,000 by not doing all that each time and rotating around. We used to do a property where you got to weed eat around lakes. Well, if you skip those lakes and only do it 12 times, I could have saved them $38,000. That's just in a little development. You know how much in a city you could save by not edging every week, just rotating around? And it's crazy that we're and I'm sorry to say that we want to give them more work when we can't get the work done that's being done now. You go look at the suckers. The suckers got to be taken off every moment. This contract that you guys wrote, it's when you got to take the mulch out and not cover the mulch, you got to keep encroachment done. That is a huge amount of money. And to look at the bids that were the way they used to be, and then add that much more work to it, and then have it lowered, it's just prices aren't going down on anything. Insurance, help, or anything. And the way it is written now, and the money now, you will not get the work done the way it needs to be done. Sorry.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Who else would like to speak?
Guess I better say something. Barry Critcher with Yellowstone Landscape. We're happy to be working with the city for the last couple years, 2+. Just to comment on some of the comments that were made, you know, we have a daily reporting that goes to Christine. She knows daily what we do. She inspects our work daily. If something's not done, it's corrected within 24 hours or there's a fine. In the 2+ years we've been working for you guys, we've never experienced a fine. We've never been late getting anything fixed. Some of the areas that might have been referenced are not even in our scope of work. And I think it goes without saying that the golf course guy said it the best. I mean, there's always situations, there's always weather, he can't even mow the golf course. He couldn't even mow the fairways, and so there's times that things won't be done. But I think we've done an admirable job for the city. We have the resources, we have the people. It's not adding 2 people and 2 mowers, it's adding 8 people and 2 trucks and mowers and all that kind of stuff. So we're happy to be working for you guys. We think we've done a good job. We're not perfect. Nobody is. Nobody ever will be. It's landscaping. We're dealing with weather. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with safety and all that. So we appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity. So thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Who else? Nobody else? Back to us. Comments, questions? Scott, why don't you start?
Yeah, my final comment is really I don't see a reason why we should not go with the lowest bidder, who happens to be a local business owner. While there may not be a $300,000 contract in the resume, if he's got 30 years or 20+ years of cutting grass, and he's doing that as a full-time business, these are just multiple smaller properties being strung together, you know. So that would be my recommendation, is I think we need to give the local company a chance and an opportunity to do this. I think it looks like, I looked through their stuff, it looks like they've got the equipment and the ability and the resources to get the job done, and staff has obviously qualified them to do that. They've been deemed responsive, and they've turned in the lowest bid. That's a fair bid process with that concept in mind. I don't see how we don't give a local company a chance.
Lynn, is there a contingency in the contract for non-performance to terminate it?
That, there is.
Okay.
There is a non-performance clause
So
in
no
the
matter
contract.
who it is, if we're not happy with them and they're not doing a job, granted, we gotta go through the steps.
And they have a performance bond.
And how long, what's the term of this contract?
This is a 2-year contract with option to renew.
Okay. Boy, I tell you what, anytime we talk about grass, it's never easy. And I don't know why, because grass should be easy, but it's not.
Easier than we're making it.
The level of service we've gotten over the years from various contractors, some have been good, some not so good, but the inconsistencies have got to end. And that's what I'm looking for in whoever it is that we do. I can't have inconsistent service anymore. 3 years ago, it seemed like it was tough to find half our contractors even owned edgers because it didn't look like they were using them up and down Dunlawton. But I like grass when it's nice, clean, square, and that's what we're paying for. Our residents expect a certain appearance, and that's we're paying a lot of money for it, and that's what we should be getting.
One of the things, Mayor, that Mr. Cheney brought up that I'm glad you did, and I hope I can get his help with the contracts, is Lynn and I, and I've had problems with the mowing contract since I got here. I don't want to tell a guy how often to mow. I don't want to tell him what kind of Toro lawnmower to use. I don't want to tell him what the guy should look like. I want to tell him I want that lawn to look good all the time. If you got to mow it 5 times a week, so be it. If you got to mow it once a year, so be it. And we're finding in the last contract that we've been riding on that our contractor is probably doing what we're asking him to do in most cases on the contract, but it's not what we want. And I told you that a little bit on some of the email that I sent you. But I would like to enlist Mr. Cheney's help maybe to help us come up with a rock-solid contract that adequately addresses the things that continue to bother me, Lynn, Scott, and everybody with the edging, with the grass growing. You know, if grass is growing in the middle of the street, I want to somehow figure out how to close down the street and get that grass off the middle of the street. I don't want to say, well, that's an in-house job, that's a Yellowstone job, that's a Tip Gen job, that's a Scotty's job. I just want I want it done. So maybe we can use you to help us with that contract that, by the way, we do want to revamp and get out in the long run.
Certainly, that's an us problem when we can't write the contracts right. That's us needing to step up our game.
Lynn, are we having a problem with policing the contracts, or is it just the contracts are poorly written so they're difficult to police?
We've had some pretty significant conversations over the last few days over policing the work quality. There's some ambiguity in the other contracts as well. And that is why, as Mr. Johansson said, we'll be revamping the next contract that expires in April as well. So I would appreciate the help of Mr. Cheney to be able to do that. I've also had some conversations with staff about how we do a better job policing the workmanship. We're also going to need to get direction from council on, do we continue to mow county roads? Because a lot of times we're doing work on the county, and that contract expired back in 2011 that we had with the county, and we've continued to provide that service. Not saying it's right or wrong, but there is work performed. The county does some spraying the weeds on the medians. I found out this afternoon is the responsibility of the county, and they only do it every 6 months or 4 months. And not to say that we shouldn't supplement that, I'm just saying that we may need that direction from council. But to answer your question about the policing and the contract, I think the contracts need to be revamped. They need to be tightened up. They need to be able to give us the quality service that we are expected to provide in our city. And also, we're going to be working on our staffing levels and how we go about policing that, and how we do those inspections and how we document that information. I think we could do a better job communicating with our contractors. I think we can do a better job communicating with our staff.
Appreciate the mea culpa.
Mayor, to Bob's point that he brought up there, and to what we're talking about with Lynn, this is the current contract right now for medians on Dunlawton, for example. I'm confused about this concept that there's ambiguity in this contract that everybody seems to want to talk about. Because to me, the language seems very clear in most all of these areas that everybody seems to think there's ambiguity. In fact, the current contract it seems like it had been updated at some point to go out of its way to specifically say certain tasks must be performed every scheduled visit. And then again, bolded, underlined in an increased font, the following maintenance activities shall occur during each scheduled site visit. Not once a month, not every other time, not every time a council member complains about it, every site visit. Specific, talking about edging. This is exactly what the contract says. Contractor shall edge all appropriate surfaces with suitable mechanical equipment, including but not limited to roadways, driveways, curbs, parking areas, walkways, fences, plant beds, and tree wells, so that no grass, ground cover, or weeds are left extending beyond or over the surface being edged. That's clear. I don't see the ambiguity in that. Yet if you go up down Dunlawton after last week's service, none of those tree wells were edged. They're full of weeds. The suckers and stuff that are required further down in this contract to be removed every site visit, it's not being done. The entire south side of the Dunlawton curb and sidewalk edge was not edged by mechanical means. So, I mean, this whole concept that there's this ambiguity, I don't buy it. It talks about blowing surfaces off. I sent the city manager plenty of pictures the other day. It is completely clear that nobody blew off those surfaces. Not only that, in the areas that they did edge, they cut the edge and they left 4 and 5, 6 inches of weeds on the sidewalk that didn't get removed. That is all crystal clear as I read these contracts.
And
I don't think there's ambiguity there.
And
Now,
I agree with you. There are many areas that are very, very clear in that contract, and we are just not doing a good enough job to enforce it.
well, and so that was my point. Bob asked that question. And with all due respect to Mr. Critcher, while they haven't been fined and there hasn't been those issues, I can't necessarily fault that. I think that from the staff perspective, that we are not holding the contractors to the scope that's written in here. And that's a concern.
We have acknowledged
Yeah,
that, and
and
we will
so,
fix it.
and you have, and so my point is, I wanna get what we're paying for, or I wanna pay for what we're getting, one or the other.
Understood.
Because we write these contracts, we've buttoned them up, we've improved on the wording to try to get rid of this ambiguity thing, and I think these contracts are pretty clear, to be
Counselor,
honest with you.
there's one more thing I think you can do to assist with the burden of performance being the contractor, as opposed to the city having to come behind the contractor and being the enforcement, and perhaps an amendment that says, you know, once you've missed more than X items in a month, there's an automatic penalty that offsets the cost of having to make that inspection repeatedly. Because you're
That's
having...
in this current contract, is it not?
No.
Did we,
I
we
don't
didn't,
believe
we
it
didn't put
is.
it in there?
But council certainly can say you're willing to go forward with that type of amendment. Now the contractor may say, no, I don't wanna do that, and then, you know, we're back to you for that final decision, but if you approve tonight, subject to an amendment along those lines that helps to emphasize it's a contractor's job to perform the clear terms. We are not the necessarily, it's not
Your
our
quality
burden
assurance.
to crack whips.
Yeah.
Although we do that to try and make sure you're getting what you're getting. We need a little bit more, I believe, in language.
Margaret, I've watched this evolve over the last how many years? You and I have sat up here, Mr. Mayor, and listened to this. This is a policing problem. I mean, when I took a look at some of the pictures that appeared on the email, when I drive along and look at the roads, it's a policing problem. For some reason, the city, for reasons I don't fully understand, the employees are not interested in enforcing. I don't know what to do. How do we convince them? Now, in the past, we had one period where people said they didn't understand the contract. In fact, I believe a few years ago, before you were in charge, they didn't even have a copy of the contract, whoever was supposed to check on it. I hate to say it, maybe Scott and I think too much alike because of our history, where we come from. If you don't police it, they won't do it. And this is far beyond lawn mowing.
Yield, inspect what you expect.
Yep.
Model.
Yeah, so I think, and we do have penalties if they don't do it. So, I mean, you got your penalties, you don't wanna be you don't wanna be, you know, sort of too heavy with the hammer. On the other hand, I don't think we're gonna have that problem for a long time, because this ship of state does not turn easily. I guess all I can think of is we've gotta lean, the council has to lean on the management team to convince them we need to take the contract serious, and the people that are in charge with handling it need to make sure it's handled.
I'm gonna say from my standpoint, I agree with you from the accountability standpoint. I absolutely accept the fact that you've taken responsibility for our failings. I'm also gonna point out that the person standing at this podium about this subject is different from the person that ran that particular department in the past. And because of that, I will give you a little extra rope, which I think you've used. But
Don't hang
moving
yourself
forward,
with it.
moving forward, let's do what we need to do. I think, I hope that we're clear the expectation, and
I already
the
told you
minimum
what,
level.
I already told you what the intent to remediate is, so we'll work with that.
Very good.
If
The
Lynn
minimum
and I
level
need
of
to,
acceptable performance is perfection at all times.
if Lynn and I have to spend weekends together on our horse, riding the meeting.
My husband and I,
Let's lighten the conversation up. I think
I
you
thought I
really
just
don't
did
have
with
to
the
be
horse
checking
comment,
things.
but
We have
it's okay.
councilmen that'll do it.
I appreciate all the input. I truly do.
'Cause I got my camera out.
Right.
I have to say, as soon as I saw the emails on Sunday, I said to my husband, let's go take a ride, and I was embarrassed. And
So a leadership note to self, don't ever send Lynn anything on a Sunday when you want her to take the weekend off.
It doesn't hurt to look at things with a critical eye.
Mayor, just to wrap up my comments real quick, and I'll yield the rest, but whatever contractors we're using, it's okay. I just want them held to what's supposed to be getting done without excuse, and let's make sure we're paying them on time, because I'm sure the check's clear. But with regard to this particular contract, I just think that it's worthy of us awarding this to a local company who has met everything that was asked of them to meet in the bid, and has been cleared as deemed responsive. You know, I just think that that's the right thing to do.
Back to the question at hand, I appreciate you bringing it back. The motion on the floor is currently on the floor is to award the landscaping contract, this particular contract to Yellowstone Landscaping. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
No.
Councilman Tramont.
No.
Councilman Bastian.
No.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
No.
No.
Mayor Burnett.
No. It's okay.
Didn't wanna wait.
I would entertain another motion to award?
Make a motion, we, move to, award to low bid.
Scotty boy.
Scotty Boy.
Would you like
With
to
this
make
sentence.
that motion to award it for 1 year?
I would
To
like
see
to.
how he does? See if he's worthy,
When?
if he's amenable
year.
to that?
We can do that.
With
I think
the,
that's already in the contract.
It's a
The
two-year
contract
contract.
is a 2-year term with an option of 1 year.
Could you live with that?
Option to renew for 1 year.
I mean, they bid on.
Let the record reflect that he nodded yes.
But my take on it is, he bid on a 2-year thing. I'm prepared to do
Okay,
that from
so
here
that's-
and
that's
give him a
gonna be
chance,
your-
because we have protections, and if he doesn't perform, then, but, you know, we're gonna make it clear.
performance bond that I agreed to do, I would
You got, I'm sorry, you gotta come up here, Scotty.
Yeah.
I gotta get you on the record.
Yeah, the performance
You
bond.
gotta tell us your name,
Oh,
too.
I'm sorry, Scott Mims. That was the whole reason I was asked today about would I, provide one of those, and I was fine with that, because I figured, after the first year of the contract, you would either agree with me doing it past then or not, and then also the additional 2 years, it's after the first initial 2-year, contract. But I'm fine with however we can work it out. Because I
If
don't
you're-
think you'll have a problem with my performance.
Your motion is to award it to him as is with the 2-year.
The 2-year, because we have protections, and I'll make it clear, we're putting our faith in you, and you're gonna be held to the
No, I appreciate
contract and
that.
to the standards,
And I understand.
and, if it says pull the weeds every time, or whatever
Right.
it says, you have to do it. We're taking a leap of faith and putting our trust in a local company.
Well, I appreciate that.
And we expect that it will be to the T, and everything will look nice, and I get it, and he said it too, nobody's perfect, you may miss something here and there.
Right.
I get it. Follow up, take care of it right away,
I
fix
will,
it.
personally.
Fix it, own it, and we'll move on.
And that's
Okay,
subject
thank you, sir.
to the bond and the executed documents.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yep, we have a second, but it's not a baseball second from Mr. Tramont.
Yeah, one for
Any other
referee.
comments? Call the roll?
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Good luck. You obviously can tell that this is something that we're very passionate about. Keep it green, keep it clean.
Be lots of eyes.
Believe me, we hear when it isn't done. City attorney comments.
One item tonight, Mayor and council members, I provided to you an email earlier today regarding a home that's gone into receivership. The receiver has contacted our office and the finance department and requested a temporary turn-on for the water. They're willing to provide the deposit and pay the water bill during their utilization. They will use this time frame to clean the property up and ready it for sale. Upon the sale, we will be paid our lien amount that's outstanding. Although this is contrary to the strict letter of the ordinance, it does satisfy the intent of the ordinance, and that's getting our lien paid. So I would ask that you approve finance moving forward with that temporary turn on to
So
clean
moved.
up.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a baseball second. Comments or questions for Margaret on that? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. That's all.
City manager comments?
Yes, sir, we have schedules to discuss based on your input, and nobody saying, no, I can't do that. We would like to schedule 2 workshops. Well, we haven't discussed that. We'd like to schedule 2 workshops to get ahead of the budget and try to get a little bit of finality before first and second reading, so we're not here till midnight. So we would like to propose a budget workshop, the main one on the 22nd of August, with a backup scheduled for the 29th of August to talk budget. If you can wrap it up on the 22nd, we'll cancel the 29th. If not, we'll rediscuss on the 29th any remaining or rehash any existing comments.
What time, Jake?
Time? 5:30? 5:30? Everybody good with that? Then, the regular council meeting, would be on September 4th. We would discuss regular council items on September 4th, not the budget. On September 5th, we'd like first reading of the budget as we've already approved, and it will only be the budget.
Keeping in mind that the reason why is September 4th.
September 4th is first reading at the
County
county,
level.
the school board. The county.
Okay,
think
so
that was-
County.
September 4th meeting at 6:30.
Yes.
So we'll have a
Regular
regular
meeting,
meeting
no budget.
on September 4th.
September 4th, regular meeting, 6:30.
What about the 5th?
September 5th, budget, 5:30. What time's it? What time was it? Tracy, did I have a time? 5:30.
5:30 for the budget, but we also have CRA meetings
That's right.
that were already advertised for September 5th as well, so.
That's right.
Those would be included.
Well, either,
They have to
Did
be
you
timed
advertise
certain.
them for a certain time?
they are already advertised, and I don't know if there was a certain time, it probably said 6:30.
And why don't we go ahead and,
I'll
on
look.
September 6th, or September 5th, go ahead and make that 6:30?
That's fine.
Yes.
Let's do
I'll
that.
let you know if there was an advertisement otherwise, but.
September 5th.
September 5th, first reading, budget, including CRAs, 6:30.
No, September 5th budget meeting has to be 5:30. Yes.
Thank you.
Has
Has to be at 5:30.
I'll figure out the CRAs and let you
Thank
guys
you.
know, whatever was advertised.
So if we have to take a short break,
Right.
then we'll take a short break, because we'll
Yes.
have it all buttoned up by then.
Oh, yeah, 1 hour, easy. Then,
Jake can buy pizza.
then the second, then the second regular meeting of the month and second reading will be on September 18th. We will combine the regular meeting
What day is 18th?
and the
It's
second,
regular
it's,
Tuesday.
So we don't need to do it
We-
on
we
the
won't need it.
19th, which we originally.
I don't think we need a second meeting, for the second reading, because then we should be all buttoned up. and cleaned
we're
up.
hoping after
Okay.
two,
Yeah, nothing on the 19th then.
Nothing on the 19th.
Okay,
We'll do it
so
all at once on
18th.
the 18th. Our regular night.
Other way around, sir.
I'm
Other way
sorry.
around. We have to do it on the 19th because the
We're
county
moving,
or
but
school
we're
board-
we're just moving our regular night. and
yeah,
doing
it
all
says
at
the
once.
18th, I
Wait, what?
apologize. So, let me go back. You guys ready?
Please.
Let's do it again, yeah, because I.
August 22nd and 29th, workshops
Workshop.
2nd and 29th.
5:30.
at 5:30.
29th as needed. But don't say it.
September 4th, regular meeting, 6:30. September 5th, which is a Wednesday, first reading of the budget, 5:30.
CRA's probably at 6:30.
Right.
We have to do that because.
Is how we
Because
advertise
there's-
it.
We advertised it in January, but I'll look and see what time.
Wednesday, September 19th, second reading of the budget, and a regular council meeting.
What time?
Our regular time.
The
September
budget-
19th is at 5:30 as well.
We can start whenever you all want. It'll be in the advertisement.
When do you want?
Let's just keep it at 6.
I would prefer to keep it our regular time.
Yeah, 6:30.
It
That's
should be
what-
non-contentious, 6:30.
That way, if
We're,
people
we're,
won't attend
we're
it.
hoping the second reading is a second reading.
And that's not been advertised?
It has not. It has
Okay.
not yet been advertised.
Got it.
Okay, then nothing on the 18th.
Right.
Okay, so I got them all written down.
All right.
Clear as mud?
Will you email all these to us?
I
tomorrow?
will.
Yes.
Well, it's gonna be in the manager's, weekly on Friday.
It will be in the manager's weekly, and correct. And from Vice Mayor Stiltner, we checked you're out of town, you're good with those dates.
I'm good with those dates.
I don't know if you're good with them, but you're not
Yep.
out of town.
I'm just gonna say, you're good with those days.
I'm good with the dates apparently.
I'll make it happen, I'll live with them.
If somebody doesn't like the 29th, we can knock it all out on the 22nd, and I will
I'm
buy
all for
pizza.
that. Yeah, I can make it work.
Drew, I will buy pizza.
Perfect.
You'll be home. You'll be
Because they already
relaxing from home.
Yeah.
approved.
So can I get a motion to approve the suggested meeting schedule? So moved. We
Second.
have,
Second?
we have a motion, we have a second?
Yep.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed? What else you got, Jake?
That's all, sir.
River to Sea TPO,
We did not have a July meeting.
General Employees Pension Plan.
We had the annual general employees pension meeting where all the employees can come in and get caught up on what's going on with the plan and ask questions. Then we had the regular meeting afterwards. Yield for the month was 0.4%. For the third quarter, 2.56, and yield for the fiscal year to date is 7.21%. Current market value, $34.2 million.
Not bad results. First Step Shelter,
Nothing new other than, we've got a couple cities that are, wanting to hold their payments until certificate of occupation, which, I agree with. And matter of fact, I'll probably make a motion at our next meeting, to, kind of get out in front of that and not request it until we have the certificate of occupancy,
If you're
excuse
not-
me.
if you're not operating, I can't contribute to an operation.
100%, and that's how I feel, and I think it would be a good faith measure by the board to get out in front of that with some of the other cities as well. That might not make me very popular among the Daytona Commission, but nevertheless, I think that's the right thing to do.
Well, I think that leads into the one thing I was gonna ask you to do. If that lights a fire, every time we turn around, and we're talking about, hearing about what the time frame is on that shelter.
Oh, yeah.
I would, if you could convey our displeasure.
I have, and I will continue to.
Thank you.
So just as a add-on to that, we paid a year forward
Right.
last year, and based on the new executive director's lunch with me, he said that he wasn't gonna charge us, not that we had to pay, but he wasn't gonna ask this year. It's currently not in the budget.
Mhm.
So there's no money in the budget.
Nor should it be.
Right.
No shelter, no money.
Just to let you know.
Any other questions, comments? Anything else come before us this evening? If not, good night.